So recording is now in session. This is, welcome to DES 113. This is our typography class. Have you guys taken a typography class before of any kind? Are you guys familiar with typography? Okay, so Ezekiel says yes. This is probably completely new. If you're entering the graphic design program, this is all new. Some people a little bit here and there. Okay, so I've got a small range. So if you're an expert in typography, I encourage you to help me. Give me some pointers, tell me some tips. If you see a better way of doing something, or if you see something that would help further the class discussion, please by all means feel free to share. This is an open discussion. I don't like to lecture. This is not the style that I just don't learn that way. I'm more of a hands-on visual kind of person. So if you are too, this is the perfect class for you, because I'm going to be doing some class exercises. We're going to be doing some group work where you share your screen, I'll share mine, and I'll do a quick demo, and then I may have you do something and show. If you're uncomfortable with that setting, it's just a strictly volunteer basis, so you won't be put on the spot. I'll just ask for volunteers. But my students, based on the feedback given in the past, they've learned better that way. So if you want to share your screen, I'll step you through. It's super simple. I'll step you through how to do it, and you can show me what you did, or maybe you could demo something. So I'm just going to kind of leave it open, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Some people just really don't like being, in the spotlight, and that is totally fine. You can just sit back and enjoy the class. All right, so I'm going to just kind of scroll through here. I asked you guys when you signed in if you could just write your name, where you're from. Obviously, no one can write on the whiteboard. So I'm going to share a video, or I'm just going to introduce myself real quick. Hello, I'm from California. You'll notice there's a little baby chair back there. I just had a newborn about 2 months ago, so things are a little crazy, but we are happy to have her. So if you tell me life is crazy on your end, I will believe you, because believe me, it's an interesting balancing act. I have 3 little ones, and they keep me on my toes for sure. All right, speaking of keeping me on my toes, I believe it was Raven who pointed out that I posted an incorrect lecture time. Thank you, Raven, for telling me. I'm so sorry. All the time zones, it gets so confusing, but you will find that on the website, and I will even share that here. Let me pull it up. And bear with me, because the first lecture is just kind of getting all the introductions and all the class information out of the way. And then once we have that, we can kind of dive into the design portion. So bear with me. This will be a quick little class review. I'm going to pull up a new share here. I'm going to show you my screen. Let me know if you have trouble viewing it. This is just our class homepage. So I'm going to step you through a few basic things. This should be all review if you've taken classes before through here. But if this is your first time at it, then there's some good things to know. So first thing you're going to want to know is the live sessions. Where do you go? Live sessions. So you'll click that tab on the home page, and here it's posted correctly. So I was in my mind, I was in my Pacific time zone, but it looks like you guys, some are Mountain, some are other Central, Eastern. So it is posted correctly here. So just look here if you need a refresher. Also, our multi-sessions. It's instructor-led. And we're going to be having them every Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel. So you guys it might be easy to remember. Tuesday, Wednesday, those are our class times. Lecture, it's not required for you to attend, but it is required for you to watch the recording. So you're going to be held responsible for whatever we talk about and whatever we go over in this lecture. However, the multi-sessions, they're never recorded. So there won't be a recording for those. It's kind of open office hours type of setting. It's kind of come and go as you please, stay as long as you want. I've had students come in and work on assignments and then leave and then come back and get them checked off. Multi-sessions are great for 2 reasons. Number 1, you can interact with me, ask me questions, get help on assignments. If you're falling behind because of work and family or whatever comes up, come in and work, and we can do a one-on-one thing if it's not too busy. I rarely have students that show up to the multi-sessions unless they need help and they pop in and pop out. So if you want some one-on-one time, just let me know ahead of time and we can try to arrange something So it is a 2-hour block, and you are welcome to come and go as you please. It's a great way. I offer students an opportunity to get some feedback on assignments before they submit. You can even get a grade on the spot at the time of submission in the multi-session. So that's also a really handy thing. You don't have to wait till the next week to get a grade, and I don't have to grade an extra assignment. So everyone's happy. But that's kind of how we structure the multi-sessions, just so you know. Recordings will be posted under the announcements. In fact, check the announcements daily, please. If you're not getting them now, I've already posted a few. If you haven't received an announcement from me, check your spam folder. A lot of times it goes into the junk mail folder, and some students don't usually get them. So you should have already got a few announcements. Don't miss the party tonight. I've promised you a little reward, and a little reward you will get once we get through these just first few introductions. But this is where I'll be posting class schedules. We're going to be having a holiday break. I don't know if you've checked the module schedule, but the holiday break will start December 17th and go through December 30th. So it's actually, I think we're going to start back up in the beginning of January, I think after New Year's. So there's a good 2-week break there, a big chunk, and I'm going to still be keeping in touch with you. I still want to make sure you're not falling behind. Some students take the opportunity to use those 2 weeks as catch up. I recommend just enjoy it with your family. So just stay on top of your assignments so you don't have to be doing schoolwork during the holiday. Nobody wants to do that. So are there any questions so far? This is how we're going to communicate under the announcements. I'm not always going to be sending out a mass email to everybody, okay? Unless you're in trouble and you're falling behind, then you'll get plenty of emails from me. All right, so I'm just going to go through and look at where people are from. I see St. George, Utah. I'm from California, Northern California. And let's see, I see Indiana, Dallas, Texas. Oh, Amanda's from Dallas, Texas. That's my stomping grounds, Amanda. That's where I grew up. I was from Arlington, so I love Texas. There's a special place in my heart. Okay, let's see. Who else do we have? California. Go to California. Lots of California. Tulare, California. Okay, and I'm just looking through. Randall, did you have a question or about the microphone? Are we having issues with or was it Randall? Are we okay? All right, so we got California, Donna, Texas, awesome. South Carolina. So we got an East Coaster. Okay, I do apologize for the time. It will be late. So we'll try to get through the meat and potatoes of the lecture at the beginning of the class for those who are on the East Coast. So, or just catch the recording. Here's a cool thing. Let me tell you about there's something new that's actually been a new structure to the class that they didn't have with previous mods. You're now going to get from me a quick tutorial demo on the assignment. So if you don't have time to watch a 2-hour recording, you're falling behind, you need some help, you can just watch the 2-hour or a short clip on how to do the assignment. Now that doesn't mean skip out on class because I'm going to post it. You're still going to be held accountable under the rubrics of certain things that we're learning. So you'll still want to watch the recording, but on how to do the actual assignment, I will be posting those videos. I haven't posted it yet, so I will be posting it after our lecture tonight, and it's about an 18-minute video on how to do assignment 1. So you're not going to want to miss that. So just keep up on the announcements. Are there any questions about where to find things, where to find our assignments? Anything that was coming up? Okay, as you read the welcome emails, you should have all received that. Welcome to DES 113. So let's talk about your reward. Okay, so now I like to show students, kind of give you a little sneak peek at the daily quizzes. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but I do it anyways for students who come to class and who watch the recordings. Like I said, you won't get this in the shorter videos, but you will get it in the recordings. First things first, week 1 Monday. I don't know if you've taken the quiz for Monday. Probably won't be able to take it, so we're on Tuesday. So let's just jump ahead. Go to Tuesday's quiz. I like to work through the quizzes with my students. Sometimes we get through all of them, sometimes we don't. I'm not sure how much time we'll have for this one, but let's look at today's. How many of you took today's quiz already? I haven't even seen it, so I rarely see it. Okay, so Amanda did, Randall. Okay, hopefully it was an easy one. Best practice for a student and a designer is to. Then do you want to help us out with a question then? What is the answer? Number 2, store all the files in the documents folder. Okay, let's see. Submit the quiz and see where we're at. Okay, so if you watch the video, it will give you the answer. You're going to want to separate files into folders. So don't learn from me, learn from this answer here. So separate files into folders. So once you watch the video, it'll explain it if you want to know more. Let's look at Wednesdays. Let's see what Wednesdays is. Okay, a good backup plan for your files is to, I guess we're gonna have to watch the video to find out. We'll go ahead and submit the quiz and see what the answer is. So the answer to this question is to store a copy on a cloud server. Do you guys know how to do that? Another way to do it, you could probably use a hard drive if you have a hard drive, but cloud server is nice because if your hard drive craps out on you or you don't have access to one, or if you want to access it from any computer around, you can just access your cloud server. So yeah, and if you already do that, Ezekiel, you're already on top of the game. So now you can get Wednesday's daily question correct. Yeah, Dropbox is awesome. Amanda Patterson, thank you for suggesting that. I use Dropbox on the daily, and it's so nice. It's so helpful. Okay, let's look at Thursday's daily quiz question. Again, with these daily quizzes, you're going to want to make sure you take them. I've had students who miss these questions and still turn in assignments, but it severely hurts their grades. So you still want to make sure you're doing these every day. Communication via pictographs. Okay, so let's see what the answer is to this one. Once you watch this video, it will give you the answer. It was used by Egyptians and Sumerians. Okay, so the first one, number 1, is the answer for this one. You can also screenshot this if you want to take a screenshot of it. I'm moving quickly, but you can, or just write it down so that you are aware. All right, let's move on to Friday's quiz question. Oh, good, Ezekiel. I'm so glad. Sorry, I'm moving quickly because we have so much to cover in this first lecture, but hopefully I'll go slow. If you haven't got it, just let me know. Tell me to slow down. Illuminated manuscripts were named so because they were what? I have no clue, but we will watch the video and we'll find the answer. Let's see what it is. Illuminated manuscripts were named so because they were accented by gold leafing. That's kind of cool and that's kind of interesting. This is about a 5-minute watch time video, so to find the answer, that would be kind of interesting to watch the video and see what they have to say about that. Learn more about the historical part. All right, let's see Saturdays. True story, interesting fact. If you do more than, I think, 5 daily questions in a week, the extra 2 almost act like extra credit. So even though we don't offer extra credit in the class, if you do more than 5 in a week and you get them right, you get that extra. It's like a bonus 10 points. So just fun fact. Okay, today blank is considered a fine art method. Anyone know the answer? Again, we'll watch the video and kind of find out. Any guesses? Lithography is considered a fine art method. That's interesting. We'll probably want to know more about that one. Lithography, thank you. Good job. Good guesses, Amanda, Vicki, good job. So there's this week's quiz. One other thing I wanted to show you is, and I'm trying to remember where it put, another new aspect of this mod. This is all, they've added a lot of new stuff, this mod, since I last taught this class, and there's a little interesting thing here called test. You've got week 1 assignment and week 1 assessment, and then down here they've added tests and midterms. I know, I don't like the word. It kind of makes me cringe. It gives me anxiety to think about taking tests and midterms. I didn't like it in college, and I still don't like it now. But hopefully the quizzes will be a little easier for you guys going through them this week. I should see, hopefully I see hundreds across the board, or 5s, I should say. Let's look at this test here. I tried to do a test to see if it was like random selected questions, but I think they're all the same. Last time I taught this class, that was kind of randomly selected, so depending on which student logged in, they get a different question. But this one looked about the same, so we'll go ahead and submit this. You'll read the question. Because the Western world reads left to right, top to bottom, having to run your text vertically is one of the biggest design challenges of readability. So there's a link here that you're going to click on and read about, but they ask you some questions and some suggestions, 1 through 4, and you're going to choose the answer depending on the link that you click. So, or depending on what the information is provided in that link that you click. So we'll just go ahead and submit it here. Number 1, as a book spine, the correct answer is you want to look carefully at the text and think about the readability as well as the way that this text functions in the environment. So for a book spine, the correct answer is no need to change. You don't need to change number 1. So can you see this? That reads really well as a book spine. This is a really functional way to kind of solve vertical text. And because when you lay it horizontally on the desk or on a piece of furniture or whatever, you can still read the typography. So this is a very good, this doesn't need any change. Number 2, as a vertical headline in a magazine, you're going to want the text to run vertically bottom to top, just like you see in number 2. Okay? And then in number 3, as a lighted street sign for a business, you're going to want to use a much simpler font. Look how busy this is. This is not only all caps on number 3's example, but it's also in a really fancy calligraphic font, and it's very hard to read. We'll talk more about that, fonts to avoid and tips and tricks of how to choose a good clean font. But number 3 is just use a simpler font. And number 4, as a street banner for a community event, you're going to definitely want to use all caps. This wouldn't read very well if it was blown up and you really want to be able to see the letters. All caps really captures attention, and it also reads cleaner. So we'll talk more about that. But this is these are kind of the question and answers that you might want to know for the test. So thank you for joining me in our lecture today. I hope that helps you guys, takes off some stress, and appreciate you all showing up. Hopefully that was worth it. Now I'll see people leaving probably, but let's talk a little bit about this class and why we're studying typography, okay? I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. We're going to switch to our slides. In the meantime, could you all please pull up your InDesign and your Illustrator for me? If you want to work with me, I want Illustrator and InDesign pulled up because we're going to be kind of going back and forth. Let me know if you're having trouble viewing my slides here. So we've already done the welcome. Welcome everybody. Thank you for introducing yourself. This is just a brief introduction about me. I told you I was from Texas, now in California. I absolutely love graphic design, and I'm not just saying that. The best advice that my dad ever gave to me was do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And you know what? It stuck with me, and it's never been more true. There's something that satisfies the soul when you can create something that never existed before. And then when you become the artist, you can look at it and you say, I did that. And I want you guys to have that same pride and excitement and passion for design as I do, because it is so much fun. When I was younger, my parents forced me to take piano lessons, and I hated it, and I protested, and I threw fits, and I refused to do it. And then my dad said, if you can learn to play, at the time it was some church song, if you can learn to play this church song, then I'll let you decide if you want to quit or keep playing. But by the time I learned how to play the song, I got good enough that I could actually read music, and I could actually do other stuff that was much cooler. And I wanted to keep going with it. Why am I telling you this? It's the same thing as graphic design. It might be frustrating trying to learn these programs because this is brand new to some of you. It might be frustrating because you haven't quite fine-tuned that creative cap. There's a lot of frustration involved trying to master tools and skills and kind of have an eye for design, and eventually it will come. And when it comes, you're going to be so glad that you stuck with it. So I just want you to know there's some stumbling blocks along the way, but everybody goes through them. I did, and I'm so glad that I stuck with graphic design, because now I not only get to do this as a hobby, I get to do this as a career, and it is a blast. And I get paid to do it, which is even more fun. It's the cherry on top. So tell me real quick in the chat box, why are you taking graphic design? Why are you taking this class? Is this for a career? Is this for a hobby? Is this just to fulfill electives? Be honest with us. It doesn't really matter. You're not going to get a bad grade for your opinion. I'm curious to know. Okay, someone said to help with the husband's business. Excellent. Lori says it's my passion. High five, Lori. Great job. To make dreams come true. Thank you. You guys are so poetic. You know what? Stop. I'm going to need tissues. Okay, Vicki says she's an artist, so it just kind of goes along. You know what, Vicki? I'm a little jealous of your artistic skills because I can't draw to save my life. I can't paint. I can't do anything like that, but give me a mouse and I love it. Amanda says she used to work for a packaging company. Got caught way too many times in the art department. So you kind of sucker for art. That's okay. I am too. David's a photographer. Wants to learn graphic design for work. Randall likes graphic design. Oh, he's doing it for his mom. After she passed away, wanted to keep doing it for her. I love that. I love that. Wonderful. Well, it's so good to know that you guys are doing this because you're interested. You're legitimately interested in doing graphic design. All right. Oh, it's okay, Raven. I'm just asking why. I'm just putting the question out there. Why are you taking this class? Why graphic design? Is this a career move? Is this to fulfill an elective? Are you doing it because you want to pursue a hobby? Yeah, Vicki, it's a little tricky, but to tell you what, you actually have an edge over most designers if you're an artist. If you can do pencil and paper, that's actually how as you progress through the graphic design program, we will be encouraging students to start with pencil and paper before they hit the mouse. So you're already got an edge above some of us because that's actually how we encourage you to start the process. It doesn't always start with the mouse. So you'll find that'll help you a lot. All right, I love this. Okay, so let's talk about this course. Best ways to get a hold of me. You're having trouble, something came up, you need to communicate something to me, email me. I have my phone on me all the time. I even have a really cool Fitbit watch that will buzz when I get an email or a notification. So just email me because I will always have access to my email. I don't always have my phone on me, however. So if you are going to phone, feel free to text as well. Sometimes text is a little easier if I can't pick up the phone. Just be sensitive to the time zone that I'm in. I've had students call me at 3 in the morning and I'm like, sorry, I can't answer right now. But just make sure that you're aware, you're sensitive to that. I do have office hours that you can contact me between noon and 2 during the week if you need. You could just call or text and just say, hey, I need to talk. I'm usually available. If I'm not available at that time, we can set up a time to go over things in the multi-session. Okay, so, and Raven said you love gaming and art, so you want to learn more about graphic design. Love that. That's awesome. Gaming is so much fun. Hopefully, you'll be able to take some programming classes that will help kind of launch you into that portal. Okay, we talked about introducing ourselves. Let's move on. All right, let's talk about policies, just so that there's no surprises. Go read the syllabus. I'm not going to review it. We don't have time for that. But just so you're not surprised, everything in the syllabus is in there about the late work and the partial late work. But there's 2 things I want you to know. Late work, yes, if it's late past Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, it will be considered late. There's no extensions on that. You'll get a 20% grade deduction when you submit it after that time. However, I do allow one-time reworking assignments. What does that mean? Well, I'll critique and give you feedback. If you choose to make the changes to that feedback and resubmit, you get one chance to resubmit, you'll get those points back on your assignment. So if you didn't do so hot the first time around, always the first draft is hard, then take the critiques that I gave you and apply them, and you'll get more points added to your grade. So I like doing that because I think that we learn better when we learn from our mistakes, when you can get feedback from somebody and then you make those changes. If you only make half of the changes, you'll get half of the points back. If you make all the changes, you get all the points back. So kind of see how that works? Just so that we know that's out there. I'm not going to remind you. I'm not going to. It's totally, if you want to do it, it's your thing. But hopefully this helps you with your software skills. It'll help you practice more. It'll help your grade, obviously, and then it helps you kind of prepare for employment, because when you go get a job and you are in the graphic design industry, whether it's in the marketing or ad design or whatever you're doing, gaming, you're going to submit something and you're going to need to make a change. So it's good practice. So make the change, get a better product. All right. Also, communicate with me. 90% of students end up passing this class because it's very, very simple. But in order to succeed, you really want to take notes by hand or screenshots like Ezekiel, because the way that I teach is kind of like a recipe. You'll click here or click here. I'll give you instructions and you'll follow them. If you're sitting back watching it like a TV show, you're not going to be able to remember all the steps. And so I want you to take notes. I want you to, if you do that, you're not going to have any trouble at all following along, okay? This class does move quickly. The mod moves quickly. So if you need a slower pace instruction, come to the multi-session. I'm not going to go over the entire lecture all over again. That's what the recording's for. It has a really cool feature called the pause button and the rewind button, and you can pause and rewind me as often as you need to go over those valuable things that we teach. But I'd be more than happy to answer questions in the multi-session and kind of fill in the blanks where you missed, okay? Let's see. So you're going to want to get your work done earlier in the week, because guess what happens on Saturday at midnight? Everyone and their uncle is trying to submit their assignments, and internet doesn't work. It's slow. The upload process is slow. Things crash. Things get deleted, and then you're out of luck. So just make sure that you try to get a head start. That's why I encourage you to come in on Wednesdays, pass off your assignment, get a grade, and you're out of there. And you can have the weekend to either party or work or whatever it is that you want to do. Something else that's helpful is turning in your assignments, like I said, on time or early. Take advantage of all the video sessions. Not only are you going to have this recording, you're going to have shorter video demos on your assignments. So we also have a learning coach that I want to let you know about. Under the assignments, I've posted her flyer, and you're going to want to go visit her. Her schedule changes from week to week because of the holidays and the break. Just check the new flyers that are posted, and she's there to help you where I can't, okay? I'm not always going to be available during your time zone or your schedule, so just contact her. Also, does everyone know how to access the Student Success Center? Okay. It's all on the homepage. There's a cool little icon that says Student Success Center. You click that, and that is full access to tutors and class tutors, and they're there Monday through Saturday. So go and get help that you need, check off assignments, get feedback. That's what they're there for, okay? If you have trouble finding it, just email me. Like I said, I'd be happy to help you. Okay, so when we get to week 4 is a hard deadline. That means that week 4 assignments have to be turned in. They can't be resubmitted, and once you miss the deadline, you get locked out of the class. So for whatever reason, if your assignment is just 1 minute late on week 4, you will be locked out of this class and no way to get back in to submit. And you can't email it to me. I'm not allowed to accept it through email. So get in the habit of turning things in on time so that you don't accidentally get locked out and miss the deadline. So students have lost out on a big chunk of points doing it, forgetting or not doing it on time. So that's a big difference of an A grade or C grade or pass or fail. All right, there's a lot of class materials. Just follow the instructions on the course homepage. Stay up to date on the announcements. Okay, so here's some how-tos. How to check announcements for videos on our class website. Does everyone know where to find the recordings? Who here is still unclear? Don't be shy. We got a lot of yeses. Okay, so under this live session tab on the homepage, you're going to click it, and then there will be a video that you watch for the week, so you can already get a head start on that because it's already posted. And then under here, lecture 2, I'll be posting the link for this recording, okay? So, and then week 2, week 3, week 4. This is where you'll find the actual links. If you want to keep just one place kind of for bookkeeping, I'll put it under the announcements as well, the recording link, and it will get sent to you through email. Those are the 2 places where you'll find the recordings. All right. so that we know where to find it. Does everyone know how to embed images to discussions? As we're doing discussions and we're talking about things, I want to make sure that we're sharing visual examples. If you're unclear or you're having trouble with it, I'd be more than happy to help you. Some of you may have already had a class that has done this, so you probably already know. You're welcome to help any students. If you see students struggling in the discussions, feel free to share your knowledge. Just real quick, I'll do a step through. Discussion 1, here we go. Okay, if you, let's see here. There is a place. Did they get rid of Packback? I'm not sure. What is Packback? Oh, it was a discussion thing? Yeah, I'm not sure. They've completely overhauled the class, so I'm not sure. But anyways, I'll show you. I bet they might have taken it out. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. There's a way to embed your pictures. Yep, just like Randall said, you're going to click on the URL and you're going to embed the image. So I usually can copy the picture and just paste it into the discussion. If you're having trouble, you can also embed the URL. So let me scroll. Sorry, my internet's going super slow. All right, so you can, you'll type your thing. You can also highlight it and link to the URL right here. Put the link here, and that will put you can insert the website or the URL here and click insert link, and that will make it a hot link for you guys, okay? You can also embed a picture, see embed image here. You can put the link to it, or you can save it if you have a Canvas or Flickr. You can do it that way. So that's how you'll embed the images, okay? If you have any problems, I can help you with that. Just shoot me an email. All right, let's go through this again. Okay, let's see where we are on time. Okay, so again, if you feel lost or have a question, there's multiple resources. We talked a little bit about those. If you fall behind, contact me for a plan. It's not always best to go in order. Sometimes some assignments are easier than others, and I would rather see you tackle the easier assignments than the harder ones. You will also need to watch the live sessions to get an A in this class. That's kind of goes without saying, but just make sure you stay up on them as best you can. Okay, for every assignment, I will only say this once, but I put extra exclamation marks on it. For every assignment, only letter forms and text. No pictures, no images, no illustrations, okay? And this goes for the entire mod, week 1 through week 4. So if I see you doing that, I'll know that you haven't been watching the lectures, okay? This is a typography class, and we're only going to use the letters in our font families to do the actual assignments, all right? So let's talk type. Okay, does anyone know why does typography matter? Can you tell me, does anyone have a reason? There's no right or wrong answer, I'm just curious. What is typography and why does it matter? Lauren says we're always looking at typography. That couldn't be more true. It's a big part of design, right? Especially if you go into marketing. Helps us understand things. These are great definitions. Typography matters because it helps conserve the most valuable resource that you have, and you grab readers' attention. You grab your audience's attention. Attention is the audience's gift to you as a designer. So that gift is precious, and believe it or not, you only have a few seconds to grab it. And and should you fail to be a respectful steward of that gift, most commonly by boring or exasperating your audience, it will be promptly revoked. So what does that mean? If you don't grab their attention in just 2 seconds, you won't have their attention. The message will not get will not move forward. So once your audience revokes the gift of attention, you don't have an audience anymore. That's simply put. Vicki says it causes moods. That couldn't be more true. Absolutely. It helps convey the message. Yeah, I like the way that image looks. Exactly. Unfortunately, many professional designers adopt kind of a high-risk model of attention. And what I mean by that is, instead of treating your audience's attention as a precious commodity, designers sometimes treat it as an unlimited resource, kind of like, I'll take as much attention as I need, and if I want more, I'll take that too. But that's not how it works. We as designers kind of have, the pressure's on. It's on because if you have unlimited attention from your audience, it's kind of dangerous, because running out of attention is fatal to your designing. So the goal of most professional designers is persuasion, and attention is a prerequisite for persuasion. So think about that. Now, let's talk about, consider a job interview, or if you prefer, it's a social equivalent, maybe a first date. By the day of the interview, you'll have spent a lot of time practicing answers to likely questions. But do you show up for the interview in a swimsuit and flip-flops? No, of course not, right? You wear clothing appropriate for the workplace. And when you talk to the interviewer, do you slouch in your chair and mumble towards your shoes? No, of course not. It's very clearly and confidently, right? We want to put on our best face. You're going on a first date. You want to look your best. You want to sound your best, right? You save all your best stories and conversations for that. So you do these things because you appreciate, as well as we all do, the nonverbal communication counts. So others draw, I can't say the word. They infer based on what we say, how we say it. They have those prejudgments. And so when we're talking type, we're talking about why visual communication matters. Have you ever got a text or an email from someone and they typed all caps? What would be your first impression? Yes, thank you, Lauren. What's the attitude, or maybe what's your impression when you got the all cap message? Why are you yelling at me? Right, thank you. Stop yelling at me through a text. Right, they hate me. It's yelling, it's almost derogatory. Stop hollering. Yeah, exactly. So that is, believe it or not, they didn't speak to you. They didn't use their tone of voice. You didn't hear their voice at all. Through a text or email, if they used all caps, they're sending a message, right? Or perhaps you're sending a message if you were the one that sent it on the other end. So, and it's not always positive, all caps in a message. If someone sent me all caps, I think they were yelling at me too. You had a friend that used to do that. Stop shouting, right? Sometimes it can be excitement. Exactly. So there's different meanings. It just depends on what message we're trying to send, right? So how can typography help or hinder? Well, in this case, if we used all caps and we were in a heated conversation, perhaps we might think someone is yelling at us. But if you got that job interview and someone sent an all caps message, perhaps they were excited. It's sometimes annoying to some people. But that's why there's so much importance placed on font choices, our word, our letter selection, emphasis, hierarchy, scale. You're going to be learning all these big words, but we want to make connections and we want to get our message across. So that's why we use typography. Okay? You might say, but I don't have the visual skills. I don't know anything about graphic design. That's like saying you can't dress properly for a job interview because you don't know anything about fashion. Okay, I have no fashion sense, but I can match my socks and I can put on some decent shoes and I can walk out the door and go into an interview with some confidence. So it's easy to learn the skills to produce good typography. I will say it again, it's easy to learn these skills. Don't get frustrated or overwhelmed. Beyond that, you need only the ability to form opinions about typography. And everyone who reads, even kids, and I've got kids, they can do this. They can tell you if something is interesting or not, or what message is trying to come across. So if you don't believe me, let's try this exercise, okay? I'm going to see if I can pull this into my PowerPoint slide. The audio is distorted. Is it coming in clear now? Let me know if we're having trouble. Clear. Okay, good. Okay, I'm gonna throw this picture in here. See if it'll let me. Here we go. I've got 2 copies of it. And I want you to tell me, we're gonna compare 2 resumes. And I want you to tell me which one will get the job. Don't bother reading it. You don't need to read them. We don't really have time to read the content of the resume, but just based off of the way it looks, I want you to tell me which one you would hire. Just type Trixie or Violet. Don't read the resumes. We don't have time. Just make a 2-second decision, because believe it or not, that's all that we really have with our audience. Okay, now the substance obviously matters, but if that's all that mattered, then everything could be set in 12-point Times New Roman and it wouldn't matter. We wouldn't have a whole class dedicated to typography. And that would be the equivalent of mumbling towards your shoes, right? So just as good speaking skills matter during a job interview, good typography matters in a written document, all right? So let's try this. We're comparing 2 resumes. I'm seeing a lot of Violet, some Trixie. More time was taken by Violet from Brandon. He thinks Violet has a solid detail look. Okay. So whose resume got your attention? Well, it's the debate, Violet or Trixie. Violet is the first one here, and Trixie's the second one. The candidate that was worth interviewing, I'm guessing that you picked, whoever picked Trixie, well, let's say if you picked Trixie, maybe you'd say Trixie's resume looked more professional, neater. Why did you pick Trixie? Those of you who picked her. Perhaps it was better organized. This is all true, but those qualities don't appear out of thin air. So, and if you look again, you'll see that the credentials on the resumes are identical. The only difference is the typography, right? It looked clearer, it was easier to read. Okay, so what happened? The resume with the better typography attracted the better quality attention. So Trixie will be getting that interview. Violet will not. And not only did you just prove that typography matters, you proved that it matters to you. Okay, and if your typography matters to you as an audience, then a literate person with no special visual skills or training, this matters to every other similar situated audience member. So this includes everyone who reads your work or sees your work. Now, writers, or not writers, but designers are skeptical of typography. They often say, no one cares how a text looks, they just focus on the substance. But we know that's not true. This is plainly absurd, which is why we're talking about typography. The Violet Trixie test is just one example. So typography does matter. And the only question is whether you, as a designer, are going to neglect it, okay? Now, if you truly preferred Violet's resume to Trixie's, you didn't fail this typographic test, okay? The point is the same. Whatever preference you had, it was based on typography, not the substance, because we didn't read it, we didn't look over it. It was just purely based on the typography, right? So you can't judge, the old adage, have you ever heard, you can't judge a book by its cover? That may have been accurate 100 years ago, but when books had plain covers, but it's not accurate today. Now we're graphic designers, and we can put out good typographic imagery, and we can create things with the type. So this is how we create something meaningful and send a message. Now let's get into the design portion of our class, okay? We'll come back to the lecture if we have time. If everyone could please open Illustrator. Can you open Illustrator for me? And I want you to open a new document. If you're not familiar with how to do that, you just, let me stop my share and pull up Illustrator. Give me 1 second, guys, bear with me. I have a million windows open and everything runs so slow. Okay. All right, so we're gonna do, I'm gonna kind of minimize everything here so that you can see my Illustrator. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay? Is Illustrator up and running? Give me a smiley face if you have your Illustrator open. All right, we're all ready. Good. Same page. Up at the top here, there's a word called File. It's a drop-down menu. Your Illustrator and your InDesign, which are the two programs we're going to be working on through this mod, especially for these assignments, are kind of similar to Word. If you are familiar with Word documents, then some elements are placed in similar areas. So for instance, you have drop-down menus, right? The File, Create New, that's pretty similar to Word, so nothing new there. And that's where we're going to go to create our new document. So if you've never created a new document before, start taking notes. We're going to go through this quickly. If you have, I want you to set up an 8.5 by 11 document. That's the first requirement on assignment 1. Open this up. I want you to give it a name. Up here on preset details, you'll give it a name. Now the way that we're going to structure, the way that we name our assignments for our class is DES 113 underscore assignment 1. You're going to put the name of the assignment and then your first and last name, okay? Pretty simple. Then for the width, you're going to give it an 8.5. The height is 11. The orientation will be portrait, and make sure that the increment of measurement is under inches. Make sure that's check marked. You might have a different defaulted measurement, but we're going to use inches for this one. Don't worry about bleed or anything like that. We're not going to get into that. You don't need to worry about the color mode. We're just doing black and white right now. And then hit create. Is everyone with me? More smiley faces? Oh, good. Oh, I'm so impressed with the different smiley faces. I love it. Love it. Okay. So here's our new document. I want you to grab the type tool. Are you guys familiar with Illustrator and the toolbar? It shouldn't be a new class. Okay, good. If you're not, this is the toolbar. I'm moving it around. Here it is. It's beautiful. It's essentially your toolbox. Everything on here is a tool that we're not going to work with all of them, but you'll be introduced to them eventually at some point in your graphic design education. We're only going to be working with a few. The toolbar or the type tool is the letter T on your keyboard as a shortcut. Cool thing about the toolbar is if you hover over each tool, it gives you a keyboard shortcut in parentheses. So if you ever wondered what that random letter is, that's a keyboard shortcut, okay? So if you want to master being really time efficient, just memorize those keyboard shortcuts. So practice hitting the letter T on your keyboard, and your mouse automatically changes to your type tool. To operate the type tool, you click and drag, and you'll see a little box there. It might fill your box up with text already. To access the text in the box, please double click with your type tool, and you can either highlight it, click and drag, or you can click Command A if you're on a Mac or Control A if you're on a PC, and that will highlight everything inside the text box. It saves a ton of time. All right, delete all the text if it gives you any filler placeholder text, and I want you to type the word of an emotion. Okay, it can be angry, it can be happy, sad, excited. I don't care what it is. I want you to type an emotion. Okay, then I want you to practice changing the font size, and you can access that in several different ways. At the top of your screen, if it's set up like this, there's some default settings. You can simply highlight the font size and enter it manually. I want this to be very large, so I'm going to make a big word. Okay, it's going to be angry because that's how I was earlier trying to talk to my 2-year-old. I was very angry when he spilled his soup all over the floor. So this is my word for the night. I want you to pick a word that describes you at the moment, and we're going to find a font that describes this emotion. What are you going to use to describe your emotion? You can go up here to change your font. If you don't see your font choices here at the top, it should be. There's a neat place. If you can't find a tool on the toolbar, or if you can't find a setting that you see me use on the top of my screen or my window, click on Window, and it's all here. It's all alphabetically organized for your viewing pleasure. Just select the tool that you're needing. So if you're looking for your type, you'll go over here, and there's some extra things. What we're going to be working with are character. So character options. So I'm just going to bring my character box here, and you can work with everything that you need. Here's your font box. Here's the font style. Your type size here, I used quite a large word, so it's 130 is the font size. This is your kerning. This is your tracking. This is your leading here up top. So we'll go over this a little bit more in detail in just a minute, but to go over this exercise, does everyone have a word typed? I want you to go through your font options, and I want you to pick something that describes your emotion, okay? I'm going to look for something that looks angry. It's going to be hard. I have a lot of happy fonts. Let's see. Okay, here's one. All right, so this is my font, angry. It's kind of chaotic. That's kind of why I chose it. Okay, if you have your word, what I'm going to do, this is good practice for how we're going to structure the class over the next 4 weeks. I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to invite you to share your screen. Can I have a volunteer? Who would like to share their screen or practice? Okay, thank you, Lauren. If you'll click on the icon, it's kind of got 2 windows. It says share screen. If you can click that window or that icon and then select Illustrator, you see that? It's share screen. It's kind of got the pyramids and the sun. See that icon? Excellent. Perfect. Okay, and Lauren, what I'm going to do is if I can do this, let's see. I'm going to unmute your microphone if you'd like to talk and just explain to me why you chose this font. What's the font and why did you choose it?
Can you hear me?
And your microphone is unmuted, so you're welcome to speak.
Okay. I chose this font because it has the curviness and
so let's see.
Hello.
Do you guys hear her? I'm not hearing her. You can hear her? That's strange. Okay, Lauren, are you speaking now?
Yeah, okay, guys. So I chose this font because it just reminds me of what love would feel like. The super long overhangs on the top of the L and the overhang on the V. It just reminds me of romanticism.
I love it. Well represented. Very good. Well said, Ezekiel. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate you sharing. All right, so we're going to stop the screen. Would anyone else like to share their word? I'll go ahead and mute your mic. Anyone else? Okay, Ezekiel, I'll stop my share and you click on your screen. Ooh, I like it. Okay, let me unmute your mic. We have a lot of people here. Okay, go ahead, Ezekiel. Tell me why you picked, what's the font and why did you pick it?
Well, I picked Bloodlust as my font, just because it kind of goes with Slumped. You know, you feel sagged down in your chair and not like doing much. So I just felt like that represented it the best.
Excellent job. I love it. That's a fun font. That's kind of cool. I like that. What's it called? Bloodlust?
Yes.
Cool. I like it. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, who would like, let's have one more person share and we'll move on. Let me go ahead and mute you. Sorry. So many people in this class.
You're fine.
Okay, there we go. All right, now you can. All right, so anybody else? That's okay, Raven. I understand. All right, if nobody else volunteers, that's fine. You don't have to volunteer. It's just to get used to sharing screens and practicing. Okay, so now that you've gotten used to changing the font size, the font family, and you now know where to find all of that, we're gonna go over the assignment demo, okay? So who here is a Star Wars fan? Do I have any Star Wars fans in the house? Because there is a movie coming up. Yes, okay, not me. That's okay. You know what? Don't tell my husband. he is a Star Wars fanatic. I'm not. He's trying to get me to watch the movies. Though I will say the newer ones, I can actually, they're tasteful. I can sit through the new ones. Just the older ones just put me to sleep. But I don't want to offend anyone. That is neither here nor there. We are going to do something in honor of the Star Wars fans, okay? This is what our typographic portrait is going to be about. What we're going to be doing is using the characters in a font family. Now, the only catch here is you're given a specific list of fonts that you can use. You can't use any extra ones that you've downloaded on Font Squirrel or DaFont or wherever. The fun fonts I saw might not be able to be used. So the list is under your assignment 1. Go find it. Helvetica is 1, and so that's the font I'm going to use for our tutorial, okay? So let's see. Just get it set up. And let me see if I can pull up my file. Bear with me 1 second. We're going to be working in Illustrator for this assignment, and there's a reason why, because here's a tip. If you grab your type tool, and let's just practice. Grab another text box or draw another text box and type a letter. I'm just going to draw a T. That's what my name starts with. And then you'll see that there's a bounding text box around it. When you type a letter or letters in a text box, you're able to click and highlight it. You can change the size of it. You can also change the font family. You can do a lot of things with, this is now editable. It's editable type. We're going to use a technique called creating outlines. And you're going to go at the top of your screen. So follow along if you can. The drop-down menu that says type. Scroll down, create outlines. What that does, you see the bounding box around it has now changed. So now this is no longer editable. We cannot change the font size, the font style, or anything that in regards to your character. What we can do now, what this has done is created a vector. So now we can expand the box. This is now editable, and each of your each anchor point is, your letter now has anchor points that you can manipulate the type with. You can start changing it up because now it's been vectorized. So you can either design or mess with it beyond recognition, or you can stylize it. All right, so that's a cool tip called creating outlines. Why do we need this? Well, it's going to help us with our assignment. So I want you to play around with the create outlines setting and kind of see what you can design, come up with. I want you to play along with it. Okay, it's not allowing you to create the outline. Great question. Lauren, can you share your screen so I can help you? Okay, so Lauren, I'm going to unmute you. If you will, okay, if you will click on the H, is that what you're trying to create?
Yeah.
Okay, go to your selection tool. Select that. Now go to type at the top of your Illustrator. Click create outlines.
Oh, okay, so you have to have like the text box.
The
Okay.
text box does need to be selected, exactly. You won't be able to highlight it, but now that you have the bounding box changed, if you click on your direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, now you can see all those anchor points, right? And you can manipulate those to create something else, or you can stylize it. But for the assignment, we won't need to do any of that. But this is how we create the outlines, and now it's been vectorized. Okay, very good. Anyone else have a question? Yeah, no problem. Thanks for reaching out. Does anyone have are you having trouble with it or unable to get it to show? I want to make sure before I move forward, because this is a big part of the assignment. We're going to be doing this over and over. Okay, Ezekiel, you got this. All right, read the instructions for assignment 1 real quick. We're going to be taking a 10-minute break, and then we're going to go into how to do assignment 1. I'll give you a little introduction to assessment 1. We won't be able to get through all of assessment 1 for this class, but I will go over some important points that you will need to know. So make sure you have InDesign pulled up as well. So we're going to stick with structure of the class. There's a 10-minute break about halfway through it, and then we'll jump into the second half of our class. We'll do the demo. But please read assignment 1's instructions so that you know. You'll have to create an 8.5 by 11 document. We've already done that. And then you're going to use characters to create a face portrait. I will show you what we're going to be doing with Star Wars, if I can find my file real quick. Just bear with me. I had it up and then it closed out, so I'm not, okay, here we go. It's the force of typography. Let me show you a cool picture I found on Google. This is actually a marketing company who decided to use the characters in several different fonts. This isn't just one font. They use several different kinds to create Yoda. All right, and I thought this was cool and very fitting for our assignment. So we're going to be creating Yoda. Little introduction, if you want to get started while we're taking our break. If we go into Window, our drop-down menu, and again, it's alphabetically organized, so if you go down here to Layers, right here, make sure it's checked. It'll pull up your Layers box, and it looks like this. Okay, now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with layers, but a brief introduction to them is that you can have several layers so that you can, and they're all color-coded, so that you can keep track of what layer you're on. So layer 1 is going to be my background image. Okay, or I can also type in example, and I'll know this is my picture. If you click on the box right here next to it, it will lock it. This toggles the lock. You can unlock it by clicking it, or you can lock it. What happens when you lock it is you're unable to move or edit that picture in any way. So I'm moving my mouse, I'm clicking and I'm dragging, and it's not moving. If I unlock this layer, I can now move this picture around. Why is this handy to use? Why do you think? Why do you think this is a handy thing to have? If I lock this example. It's helpful because now I can type over it and it won't move the picture. Yeah, so you can't ruin it, so you can't accidentally be manipulating the wrong layer, and I can type over it and it won't move the picture. So that's kind of helpful. All right. So you can copy without moving. Yeah. Yeah, I love the lock button because now it doesn't mess it up and you can be on a different layer. So now I'm going to create a new layer. Layer 2 is going to be my text layer, okay? This is also color-coded. Now it's red. So now whenever I click on this layer, make sure it's highlighted too so you know which layer you're on. Now, as you can see, my bounding box turned to red. It's no longer blue. That's because it's telling you what layer you're on, all right? And in that case, I'm on Helvetica New. I'm going to change let's just do Helvetica. Let's go here, okay? And I don't want bold, I just want a regular. And I'm going to create parenthesis, open parenthesis. And I'm going to be using the open parenthesis quite a bit. So here's another tip and trick. We're going to go to Type, Create Outlines, and now I can manipulate this. I can rotate it. And the way that you rotate is if you hover your mouse over the corner anchor points, your mouse will then change to a curved arrow. That means you can click and drag and rotate it any way you want, okay? There's also a place to manually rotate your, to enter in the exact rotation numbers if you want, but this is just handy. If you hold down Shift, it will lock it into place every 90 degrees, okay? So, or is it 45 degrees? I can't remember. Okay, so it locks it into place. Then what you can do is you can grab the anchor points to kind of squish it in, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to place it over my Yoda. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to just line it up the best that I can. It's not going to be perfect because they're using different fonts than I am, but I'm just going to try to get it as close as I can. All right, so there's one. Now, to make this even easier to see, I'm going to click on my example layer, and I'm going to go to the opacity here at the top of my screen. And I'm going to adjust the opacity so that it's super light. But first I have to unlock it so that I can make that adjustment. Click on it. Okay, now it's super light, and I can just see it very faint in the background. Now I'll lock my layer again. If you don't want to see a layer, you can just click on the eyeball and it makes it disappear. This toggles between your visibility, and this is helpful too when you're tracing something and you want to be able to see your work instead of, it makes it less busy. All right, so it's visible. And now what I'm going to do is kind of add a little bit more curvature. Cool keyboard shortcuts that you're going to want to memorize. Command C, if you're on a Mac, will copy. Command V will paste it. If you're on a PC, it's Control C, Control V. So Command C, practice that with me. Command C, Command V will copy something. Or yes, exactly, Ezekiel. Or you can hold down your Alt Option button, click and drag, and that will make a duplicate of whatever object or character that you want to copy. Okay, so now I'm going to just make a copy of this parenthesis, and I'm going to rotate it until I get it just right where I want it to be. And this will take a little bit of finesse. You might have to go slow and kind of mess around with the direction of it a little bit. All right, so there's my Yoda head. We're gonna go take our 10-minute break. I'm gonna come back, we'll finish Yoda, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the assessment one. Where do you get that image? Good question. I found it on Google Images. Let me see. I can even email it to you guys. Would you like it emailed? Or I could post it in the announcements. Would that be better? Okay. Yeah, no problem. I can do that. So I'll do that over the break. I'll post it so you have it, and then you can, or I might send the link so you can grab it, whatever. I'll see what I can find. And then we'll come back and we'll finish the assignment. Are there any questions about what we talked about class, the structure of class, the assignment, getting started, the tools? We all good? Okay, I want you to practice this if you can. I will show you some examples of portraits, and you don't have to do Yoda, but I will show you some student examples too. That also helps to see what other students have done. Okay, guys, we'll see you in 10 minutes.
All right, guys. I don't know if that was 10 minutes or not. It might have been 8, but we will, I'm just looking at the clock and we still have a lot to go over. So we're going to go ahead and jump forward and move on with the assignment. Did you get the link? Did everyone get it that needed it? I just posted it in the chat. Okay, cool. All right. So we're back to these parentheses. Are you guys, do you have any questions before we go in? Is creating outlines working for you? You're welcome to work alongside with me if you want to grab that picture. Okay. Oh, good, Lauren. I'm glad it's working. All right. Okay, so we're going to zoom in here. I'm going to go through this quickly. I'm going to keep using these parentheses. I'm going to copy and paste. Remember Command-C or Control-C, depending on if you're on Mac or PC. I'm going to rotate this. This will then become my eyebrow. I'm going to be using the parentheses a lot to create the look that I want. And I'm just going to use a little trick, holding down Alt-Option to duplicate. Okay, copy and paste again, Command-C, Command-V. I'm going to create the eye. And I want it a little bit thinner and more curved. So I'm just going to play around with it a little bit. I'm going to rotate it. Oh, you can't see anything I'm doing. Thank you very much. I always forget to go back to my program. Thanks, Lauren. I'm glad you didn't let me talk too long. I've gone a whole 20 minutes before without sharing my screen, and it's not fun. Okay. It's harder when you're tracing something because you're trying to get it just right, and I'm trying to fit this. It's not the exact same font that they're using, so I won't get the exact effect, but I'm going to try my best. It's all about the angle in this case. If I can angle the parentheses just right, it'll give me the look I'm going for. And you can tell me if this doesn't look like Yoda, but I think it'll work. I am moving quite fast too, trying to finish this up. Tracing is hard. In this case, we are not allowed to use the pen tool. We can't use anything other than the type and manipulating the type, okay? That's the only rule to this, is as easy as it might be to use the pen tool. But yeah, tracing and trying to make sure that we have everything. That's why it's easier if you can just create your own stuff. You don't have to worry about tracing. For his chin, you know what? I'm going to actually do a thinner one. So I'm going to draw my parentheses. And make it smaller. I'm going to do a light version of this parenthesis so it's not so thick. Again, if you play with these character styles, you know, whether something's heavy, bolded, light, regular, you'll get a different effect. And so that's kind of helpful in the tracing aspect, because if you're not getting the same look, trying to achieve a certain look, you can mess with those settings. All right. I'm trying to angle this the best I can. All right. So the goal is not to copy the shapes. Well, if you're tracing an image, yes, copy the shapes. If you're doing this from scratch, you're going to create your own typographic portrait. And I'll show you an example of that in just a minute. So bear with me. If you're tracing something, yeah, you want to copy the shapes. You want to make sure you're only using the letter forms. You aren't supposed to use anything else, no other tools, pictures, effects, nothing like that can be used. You have to kind of use what you have in the font family. And copy and paste is going to be my best friend here because it's saving me a lot of time from having to angle things and redraw them. And I am going pretty fast. So now I'm going to use the brackets, or not the brackets, but the, I don't know what these are called. What are these called? Help me out, guys. Greater than, less than symbols. The alligators, is that what they're called? For real? Looks like them. No, I liked where you were going with that, Ezekiel. Alligators. There you go. All right, so you kind of get the idea of what I'm trying to achieve here, right? All right, and I'm going to copy this one. Ooh, sorry about that. Another cool trick, another cool keyboard shortcut is if you hold down Command plus, it will zoom in. If you hold down Command minus, it will zoom out. So as you're trying to get a better look at what you're doing, you can zoom in and out easily without having to grab the magnifying glass. You can also grab the magnifying glass at the bottom of your toolbar, click and drag, and it will zoom in at in that portion. But I feel like I have more control if I use the keyboard shortcut over using the magnifying glass, and that's just a personal preference. But as you start working with the tools, you'll kind of find what works for you and what doesn't. All right, now lastly, I'm going to click on, do a capital D. I'm going to go to type, create outlines. Oops. I'm going to rotate it, hold down the shift button, and it will lock it into place. And I'm just going to kind of stretch it. Now, in your assignment, it says don't stretch or skew the characters. And while I do agree with that, it's okay if you need to make it fit something. Just be careful not to make a habit of it. I think the purpose of that instruction was to prevent you from skewing or making something misproportioned. If you hold down the shift button when you resize something, it will lock and constrain the proportions so that you don't skew something, you don't squish it or stretch it. But in this case, I do need to squish and skew so that I can make it fit. That's it. When you're doing it on purpose, that's okay. But when you're doing it on accident, you'll get docked points. Does that make sense? All right, before I create outlines, I'm going to change the heaviness of this character. And now I'm going to go in and create the outlines, because once I create outlines, it's no longer editable. Remember? Hold down Shift and click on a corner anchor point, and it will expand it or shrink it, whatever you need it to do. All right, copy, paste. I'm going to throw this guy over here. We're almost done. One more character to go. He's coming along. I like him. You hold down Shift and select multiple objects or characters. You can edit them at the same time, so you don't have to do one at a time. So that's a neat trick. All right, for his mouth, I'm going to grab the type tool and just do a line. Type create outlines. And bring it down here. So I didn't draw the line. I used a character within that font family. All right. Now it's not identical because, again, they're using different fonts for the characters, several different fonts for the characters. But using Helvetica, I think we kind of got, I think this looks good. So to check my work, I'm going to hide the visibility. There you go. There's Yoda. And we're going to click on here, and I'm going to type the font that I used. Not bad for Helvetica. Thanks, Lori. Helvetica, and then I'm going to put the, what else do I need to put? I think that's it. I think I only have to put the font name We'll double check that. All right. So there's my assignment. Then when I'm done creating it, and make it large enough. I mean, you have an 8.5 by 11 page, so don't make it too small. We can increase the size. Like I said, you can select multiple objects, hold down Shift, click and drag, and this will allow you to expand them all. You don't have to do them one at a time. I could probably play around with his ears, the placement of his ears a little bit more. There we go. All right, so now this is Yoda and he's ready to go. There's my font that I used. Now we're gonna go to File, click Export. I'm sorry, not Export, Save As. And then you're gonna give it a name. You're gonna click down here at the bottom where it says Format, Adobe PDF. And then it will automatically change the file extension up here at the top, so you don't have to worry about that. Save it where you'll remember you saved it. I usually put it on my desktop and then file it later. When you hit save, replace, that's fine. It will bring up this dialog box. You're going to change the quality to smallest file size. Okay, smallest file size will mean a quicker upload process for you and a quicker download process for me. Plus, it's just vectors, so I don't need, it's not photography or anything. I don't care if it's a small file size. So, small file size, hit Save PDF, and it might give you some warnings you want to continue. And then there it goes. It will create your PDF. Are there any questions? Do you have to do something different than this image? You don't have to. If you feel inspired by the Yoda demo and you want to do Yoda yourself, you're more than welcome. If you want to do something different, let me show you what other students have done in the past. Okay. Let's see. Let me pull up my slides. Bear with me. Again, 20 windows in one screen does not fare well. Okay, there's my slides. Okay, here's some text illustrations that were created by some students to give you an idea of what's been done before. Now, this is an example that we're not doing something like this. We don't need to get too crazy, okay? And we're not supposed to fill in our object either. We're just supposed to use the characters to create the actual portrait. You can get really crazy, and you can do some fun things like this. Now, I can show you how to do something like this if you're interested in it. But right now, we're just doing something a little bit more simple. So I don't want you to get overwhelmed, but I do want you to get excited about the possibilities. If you want to try it, you can. Just look at what characters can do. It can create style, and it can create texture and value. It can create depth also, and it can create shadowing and dimension. So it's pretty neat to see that these images were created just based off of text. Let me zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. And here's some student examples here. These were A student examples. These are what this got a student A in the class. Yeah, and these are pretty cool. And if you Google typographic illustrations, there'll be a ton that pulls up. I'll tell you what though, if you take any photography classes or you're familiar with Photoshop, you can do some pretty incredible effects on your typography creations. Also, the one on the left was created in Photoshop. You can do some lighting effects, some color. Some really cool effects can be done in Photoshop. Unfortunately, this is not a Photoshop class, so we can't. All the work needs to be done in Illustrator. And again, we're just sticking to the simple basics here. So this is more of what I'm going for. These students created their own portrait out of their head. I mean, this didn't come from anything. They just simply used the characters to create the facial expressions and the detail. You can, if you see something online that you want to copy, totally fine. I don't care. Obviously, you can't submit another person's work, but if it's your work, of course, you just submit the PDF. So this is an example. This is also really detailed typographic creation. Did a China abstract out of just typography, letters, words. Did a whole thing, and from afar, it looks like a map, right? But if you look closely, each character is a word or a sentence or a letter of some sort, and it just created a really detailed map of China. So this is cool. Lots of cool effects that you can do with this skill. So this is why we're kind of introducing you to it. Just want to show you real quick, designer responsibility. What can happen if you don't pay attention to detail? Can you tell me what's wrong with this image? I know that China one, it took some serious time. Packed with taste, less sugar. This, yeah, the type, also the kerning, things, the spacing, and also it's missing punctuation, so you don't know if this is a question or if it's excited. You need an exclamation mark or a period. It's also missing a comma, so it's not very effective. What about this one? This one has been circulated before. Super bad, right? What's wrong with it? It's spelled right. Spacing is so important, okay? Spacing can make or break your message. Again, this is, I don't know if they're open for business, but this is pretty bad. So yes, you need to be aware of the spacing. This one, if we got any Harry Potter fans out there, this one is interesting because it's not consistent at all. So make sure that your design is consistent. With me, when I was copy and pasting those parentheses on Yoda's face, I made sure that the left one matched the right one. So just make sure you're consistent. All right, we can keep going. Here's one. Placement, positioning can matter when you're a designer. Unfortunately, this model's head got placed in a very crucial part of the name of the magazine. And so, yeah, it can be read wrong. This one as well, good idea gone wrong. I think the designer thought, hey, I'm going to use the grapefruit in place of the G, and instead it just read totally wrong. So make sure that you guys are checking your work, making sure that your message is translating somehow, because sometimes it can get lost. Have someone look over your work. I am more than happy to do it, or have a friend look over it. Just make sure your message is getting across. Yeah, they were trying to substitute the G for the grapefruit. Yeah, I'm wondering how that got approved too. But believe it or not, I worked in the newspaper industry, and not everyone is paying a lot of attention. So yeah, it's good for every meal. Eat a grapefruit. Okay, so we'll stop there. That's enough lecturing. I don't really like to lecture. Let's open InDesign. Are we feeling comfortable with assignment 1? Do we know what's expected? Are we feeling good? Feeling motivated? Any questions before we move on from assignment 1? Okay, good. All right, so now we're going to kind of get into the assessment. This is a little bit more, I would say, time consuming than the actual assignment. It's worth less points. That doesn't mean you should skip it, because this is very important. We're going to be going over a lot of crucial key elements. I'm going to change my view here so that it's a little cleaner. One second. All right, so we're going to set up our new document just the same way that we did with the other one. Go to File, New, Create Document. You're going to create an 8.5 by 11, same standard page size that we did for our assignment 1. You're going to deselect Facing Pages. We don't want that box checked. Facing Pages is if you're creating a book or anything that you want to view pages side by side. But in the design world right now, we don't need it. Okay, so just deselect that. Don't worry. In fact, Lori, Illustrator was my mortal enemy for a very long time, and it was only a few years ago that I really felt like I kind of had a handle on Illustrator. So InDesign was my friend, and I actually felt InDesign was a lot easier to use. You might feel the opposite. but don't be discouraged. I'm going to show you a very easy way to get familiar with the tools. So number of pages, 1. Deselect facing pages. Standard page size is letter. We want portrait orientation. We're also going to need 2 columns. So in this box here that says columns, click number 2. Leave the gutter the same. We don't need to change that. Margins need to say 0.5. Okay, top, bottom, right, left, all the margins need to say 0.5. And don't worry about your bleed and slug right now. That's not important. So we don't need that. Okay, hit OK. Cool, interesting fact. If you click this preview button, it will show you as you're making the changes in this new document box what your document's going to look like, so you can make sure that you're doing it right before you hit OK. It's kind of neat. So just keep it checked so that you can see what you're doing. Your document should look like this. Does everyone's document look like this? Anyone have any questions on how to set up the document? Okay. You got it. Good. Thumbs up. Yay. You guys are quick. You're a quick bunch. I can tell. You guys are going to do just fine in this class. All right. In your assessment one, you'll need to access the home page for this. Go to your assessment. There is a document called The Art of Typesetting. In fact, it's a link that you'll need to download. It's a Word document that you'll download. And there's a link provided in the under assessment one. A few things you're going to need to know. Let me pull up my notes so I don't steer you guys wrong. Okay. Let's talk about, I'm not going to be able to go through this assignment in its entirety, but I will help you set up the document so that it's done correctly. What you're going to need to do is you're going to be setting it up like a magazine article, essentially. So you're going to grab your type tool. That's the same as Illustrator, nothing different, or the letter T on your keyboard. You're going to click and drag. This is where you're going to put the headline. Now, there's something called Smart Guides. Smart Guides are a helpful view of where you're placing text boxes in objects. If you go up here to View, Display Performance, and follow along with me so you know where to find it. Go to, or I'm sorry, Guides and Grids. Make sure that your Smart Guides are turned on. Make sure Snap to Guides is turned on. Snap to Guides will lock something in when it's aligned properly, so you don't have to eyeball it. It will automatically lock something into place for you. Smart Guides will show you where you're placing your elements on a page, okay? So this one is going to be where I'm going to place the title of my document. And you won't need to type it in. You can just copy it from the Word document. The good news is they've given you the type already. That's the hard part. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. Copy it from Word, paste it into InDesign. I'm going to highlight it. So far nothing is new here. This is all, if you're familiar with Word document, these tools are all the same. You can highlight it and you're going to format it, okay? It'll give you instructions on how to format it, but that's where the headline's going to go. We'll format in just a minute. Right now we're just placing elements. So that's where that text box goes. Next text box is the columns. So I'm just going to draw 2 evenly placed columns with a little bit of space between the headline. Okay? Oops. If you ever mess up or need to back up, hit Command Z or Control Z, depending if you're on a Mac. Command Z, PC is Control Z. I'm going to hold down my Alt Option button and I'm going to copy this over. And my Smart Guides are going to lock it into place. So you see that vertical purple line? It's saying, hey, this is lined up with the center of your column, okay? That's why Smart Guides are so helpful, because it kind of lines things up for you. Your eye might not be as good as the actual computer's ability to line things up, so we're going to trust the computer, kind of like GPS for a computer. This is going to be very helpful. I've got my 2 columns placed. I'm going to click on column 1. Down here at the bottom, there is a larger anchor point, not the corner anchor point, but the one above it. As you can see, I'm moving my mouse. You'll click that, and all of a sudden my mouse changes. I'm going to click inside the other column. What I just did was I linked these 2 columns. So by clicking that larger anchor point and then clicking on the second column, it's now going to flow text from one column to the next. And I'll show you an example. Let me grab the Word document. I'm going to grab all the text. It's thinking. Give me a minute. You can do it two ways. You can either flow it into your document through InDesign, or you can copy and paste it from Word. You can either copy and paste it like I did. Yeah, it's linking the boxes together, exactly. Or you can go to File, Place, and then you find the document that you want, that you save to your computer. Remember, you're going to be downloading this Word document from the Assessment 1 portion on your course homepage. There is a link. And it's thinking about what it wants to do with life. Give it a minute. Okay, there we go. So File, Place, go to where you saved it. And in this case, it's this document. I'm going to hit Open. So there's two ways you can do it. Okay, so now it flowed in all the text. And because my boxes were linked, I didn't have to manually set it up. So far, this is where we're at with this. We don't need the headline in this column because we have it up at the top. I'm just going to get rid of that. You will need to format, and again, I'll post a tutorial on how to do this, but let's practice working with let's get familiar first with our character definitions. If you go to Window, Window, go to Type and Tables, click on Character. It brings up a little character dialog box. This, again, is similar to Illustrator. You can change your font family, you can change your font style, you can change your font size, you can change your leading. Leading is the space between the lines of type. So if you look at my document, the space between these two lines is leading. The tracking is the space between the letters throughout the text. So let me show you an example. Tracking can be seen, let me make this larger so that a little easier to see. Okay, we're on the headline now. Look at the difference of when it comes to tracking. What am I doing? Is tracking spread out or is it together? Spread out, right. Now I'm going to adjust the tracking the other way. I'm adjusting the space between the letters. So that's tracking. Tracking can be found right here. Tracking. Right now I'm at -140. That's my value. Right, close together. Okay, if you ever want to zero out, you can just click 0 and it will. Now you can manually adjust the tracking this way. They have standard preset values, or you can manually type it in if you're trying to achieve a certain look. That is the art of tracking. Kerning is a little different. Kerning's underneath the font size right here. You can see, again, it also has values that you can change. Kerning is a space adjustment between two specific letters. So unlike tracking, which is all of the spacing between the letters, if we'll look closely here, the space between the A and the R, right here, would be kerning. Okay, and you can change that. Or the T and the H, the kerning. So if I were to change that to -100, it now adjusted the way that it was viewed. I'm just going to undo that. Yeah, it's the space between two letters. All right, and then it may be needed to even out the space depending on specific letters in the font. Mostly in larger text you can adjust, but we won't need to really worry about the kerning so much as we will the tracking. Okay, and usually your InDesign is defaulted to just be zeroed out, so it won't come with anything. It shouldn't look weird when you place in your text. Okay, all right. So what your assignment is asking you to do: size orientation of the page, we've got that. Letter document, portrait orientation, margins, 0.5 inch, we've set up everything. There's something called a baseline grid. Now, I know we're learning a lot of terminology. Just bear with me. All these definitions are under your assessment 1, so you don't have to remember it. But what we're going to do is set a baseline grid. What that does, and I'll show you. Go to view, guides and grids, show baseline grid. I'm going to show you right here. Yeah, exactly. Does this look familiar? There's a view here. Do you see all the lines on the paper? Does it bring you back to the old school pencil and paper, the notepad? So what the baseline grid is it helps you, it's a function that lines up all the text to set a grid so that lines of text in the columns are lined up at the same baseline. Now, is my text at this point in time lined up with my baseline? I'm going to zoom in for you and you tell me. What do you see? No, it's not. And in fact, this line of text is touching the top of the baseline, whereas even this K is extending above it, and this one is kind of in the middle of it, and this one's at the bottom of the baseline. So they're all over the place. Nothing is lined up, and it would probably take you several years to be able to line up each line of text with each other if you did this manually. So a cool setting in InDesign, and it still probably wouldn't be accurate. So you don't have to eyeball anything. The computer will do it for you. So to set up a baseline grid, what we're going to need to do is go into your preferences. So click on InDesign at the top of your screen with InDesign open. It says InDesign CC. Click on Preferences. Click on Grids. All right, it opens up a preference box. Does everyone see this? Again, this assessment has a lot of steps, but it's just to familiarize you with InDesign and to get you started on how to set type. All right, preferences. Now now listen carefully. You can keep everything the same here. I believe it might step you through some values. Let me pull it up. I don't want to tell you wrong. See what it asks you to do. Okay. Baseline grid. Set the top of the page. Okay, we're there. Top of page, right here, top of page. And then it says 14-point increments. This increment is important because it's going to help us line up our baseline grid. And chances are, if your baseline grid does not line up, this is why. It's because your value doesn't match your leading. Okay, and I'll explain in just a minute. So just set it to 14. And then it's recommended to set the view to 50. The reason why is you won't be able to view your baseline grid unless it's less than the view that you have it at. It's kind of confusing, but this is why. So just set it to 50 and you don't have to think about it. All right, that's all you need to do. You'll hit OK. Now, did it change? Am I still lined up or am I not? Is this lined up to the baseline grid? No, it's still, nothing happened, right? Nothing changed. Even though I changed the preferences, what I'm going to do now is highlight everything in here. And I'm going to make sure my leading, grab my character box. You can either find your leading here in your character box or at the top under your character formatting controls. This is your leading. Now we entered the value 14 under the preferences, but this is 14.4. So we're going to need to adjust this to what? What does this need to be? They have to match. So we need it to be 14. That's right, 14. Whoops, I entered it wrong. 14. Okay, now what happened? Alignment, right? Okay, alignment. So now everything is aligned to my baseline grid. So if you are having trouble lining something up, it's probably because your leading doesn't match your increment in your preferences. Those two have to be the same. Also, if you don't like the view of seeing your baseline grid, you can just go back to View, Grids and Guides, and you can hide the baseline grid. I don't like the baseline grid. It messes with me. But when I'm laying something out with a lot of heavy text, you're definitely going to want it. So you can make sure everything is lined up, okay? All right, so that is that story. That's how you do the baseline grid. The headline, you're going to highlight, and you can change here under your character controls. It needs to be Arial, narrow, and you want it to be bold. Then on your font size, it needs to be 61. Tracking needs to be 10. Okay. And then center alignment. You're going to want to make sure you create and apply the following paragraph styles. We'll get into that, but the center alignment needs to be, it can be found up here. It's center aligned, align center. If you don't see this, just click on your paragraph formatting controls and and it's right here on the left. It's also under your character formatting controls, or go to Window, type in tables, click on paragraph, and it will pull this up and it's just like Word. It looks just like Word's icons, the center align. Okay. All right. Let's see if you're going to need to know anything else. Again, I'll do a demo on this. The body copy, the entire column of text, needs to be Times New Roman, and it needs to be regular. The font size needs to be 10, and keep it 14. Left alignment, so we're going to change the alignment here. It is left aligned. And you're going to want to add about a quarter of an inch, or not a quarter, I'm sorry, an eighth of an inch space after paragraphs. What does that mean? Okay, so the 0.125 inch space after paragraphs, you're going to go to your paragraph. Here. Oops. Okay, and then you're going to also need your drop cap. So well, actually, just make sure your body copy all aligns to the baseline grid. I'm going to hit a return here. Oops, sorry, not a return. The drop cap is the first letter of your paragraph. I'll zoom in here. First letter, and the drop cap can be found up at the top here. Let's go to our paragraph formatting controls. This is your drop cap. If you ever can't find a tool, just hover your mouse over it. Drop cap number of lines. And it should tell you 3 lines is what you need. And then you're going to apply it to the first paragraph only. So we don't want the drop cap applied to any of the other documents, just the first letter. So far it's coming along. We're just about out of time, so we won't be able to go through all of this, but I'm just trying to show you some things that you can do to make this a little bit neater. I'm putting a return after each paragraph. Oops. So I'm going to back up for just a minute. Okay, here is where you put the the eighth of an inch space after paragraphs. So you're going to highlight. You're not going to hit return on each paragraph. Sorry, I told you wrong. You're going to need to include the eighth of an inch space. So you'll grab your paragraph formatting controls, your dialog box, and right here is the space after. What this does is it gives a value or a space after each paragraph, and it will automatically do it. So you just have to highlight your entire text. You don't have to put the returns. Here you just need an eighth of an inch, so that's 0.125. There you go. And boom, it does it for you. Okay? So now you're done with the spacing. Now you can see there's these subheadings. These subheadings need to be changed to the values that they give you. So now we're going to go back to our character dialog box. It helps if you just keep them both up, but I'm trying to do this so it doesn't confuse you guys. All right, so we want Arial narrow, bold, size 14. Yeah, that's a good point. Randall says, don't worry about that red plus sign at the bottom. It'll get fixed when we're all done formatting everything. However, if you do see that and you are done with your assignment, you will need to make sure that you go back and adjust something, because it might mean you kind of left out a value or something threw it off. Also, the spacing between the headline and your paragraph, you can change that. In fact, you can go back into the paragraph dialog box and you can just zero it out just between those two. I'm just getting rid of that because we don't need the space between the headline and the paragraph. Oops, sorry. Not doing it where I want it to. Why is it? There we go. There we go. All right, now here's a cool trick. Once I've already formatted this, there's a lot of things you can do, but I'm not going to overwhelm you tonight. We're going to grab our eyedropper tool, and if you select it, click on the highlighted text that you want to copy, and then click and highlight what you want to change. It will help you, it will format it for you. So those are the two areas that we had set up. All right, and then those are the subheadings. It says don't align this to baseline grid, so we don't need to worry about it, but it does want you to center align them. So we're going to center align these like that. All right, so yeah, the eyedropper is kind of fun. It can copy any presets that you have and apply it to another chunk of text. So it's a good time saver. Let's see, bullets. You're going to need to know how to do bullets. So we'll start here with the font size or font styles. I think it wants you to do all of it. We'll see. Okay, bullets over here at the left, or I'm sorry, the far right. Under your character formatting controls, there is a icon that looks like a bullet. You can click that. It also asks you to keep it same as the body copy, but we're going to do an 1/8 of an inch in tab position, so no space after paragraphs added. So this will also help with the spacing. So we're going to take off the spacing for the bullets, and then it also asks us a so an 1/8 of an inch of a tab position. So we're going to inch it in. Oops. Let's see. Okay. There we go. And then the byline Times New Roman. And it needs to be 8 point. Okay, oh, that's 9. All right, 8 point and then right alignment. So we're going to change the alignment to right. And then you'll just keep going. But again, we ran out of time, so we're going to stop here. There's a lot that we will have to go through. I'll do a demo for you, so it's a short and condensed version of how to set this up. Don't get frustrated. This is a little bit of the overwhelming part on trying to just typeset. Typesetting takes a lot of finesse and practice, but once you get familiar with where to find the tools, it's just a matter of entering in the values. Are there any questions? Any questions at all? We're going to have to stop here. No? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming to class, for participating, and for sharing your screen. And hopefully you had a fun time, and hopefully this makes this week's work a little bit easier. So thank you for coming. Hope you guys come to the multi-session tomorrow. And I'll see you, if not, I'll see you guys next week for week 2. We'll see you guys. Thank you. Oh, just a quick plug. Make sure you check for the recording under the announcements. It usually takes about 24 hours, so you'll see it tomorrow morning. If you don't see it tomorrow morning, email me. We'll see you guys.